Okay, guys, now let's go ahead and get ready to read and think together. And we're going to read Delivering Justice, W.W. Law, and the Fight for Civil Rights, written by Jim Haskins. So, our job as readers is to be thinking about the author's perspective on W.W. Law, Wesley Law, and how he lived his life to help fight for justice in our country. So we're reading a biography. We're going to set ourselves back in the past for this biography. And we're going to be thinking about how usually a biography is set up in sequential structure. Usually we hear about the childhood of the subject, and we'll get some key details that help us kind of understand how the subject's childhood affects what they accomplish later in their life. And then we will usually hear about some obstacles that the subject faces as they begin their life. How do they respond to those obstacles? And then typically we end a biography kind of thinking about why was this subject famous, and what was that impact that this subject had. So let's go ahead and read and think through these details. Okay, so we're going to need our sticky notes ready, because on each page we're going to be listening for what exact words and phrases did Jim Haskins choose to use to explain this life of Wesley Law. Are they extremely positive words and phrases, or maybe some extremely negative words and phrases? And then is there any big contrasts and contradictions that Jim Haskins points out to us on purpose that make us as a reader kind of think, oh, wow, I did not expect it to be that way, or wow, that's not how my life is now, or how our world is now, and that the author wanted us to have that feeling. So take note of that. Alrighty, so let's see. Let's go ahead. Okay, there we go. All right. Perfect. Okay, guys. So let's go ahead and meet at page 198. And let's have our sticky notes ready. And I noticed that the author chose to give each page a heading. And then underneath that heading, the author gave us the events that kind of match up with that heading. So our first heading, we can use our heading magic. Our first heading is Savannah, Georgia, 1932. Poof, turning into a question. What happened in Savannah, Georgia, 1932? That was important to our subject. We'll read through some details, and we're going to get ready to find some extreme and absolute language or contrast and contradiction. Alrighty, so let's see. I'm going to go ahead and use my sticky notes here. All right. Let's see if we can get this set. All right, so this is where I can add some notes about page 198. All righty, so you think along with me. Here we go. Take a look at this nice illustration. Looks like it's set in a kitchen. Very happy type of tone happening, kind of calm, nice kitchen. I see a little boy here sitting at the table, so I'm assuming that this is W.W. Law as a child. Let's read and see, why did the author and illustrator include this event? All right, so meet me in your text or on mine. The smell of his grandma's biscuits lured Wesley to the kitchen. Oh, I love that word, lured. That's even some extreme language, right? Like thinking brought him to the kitchen. He just couldn't resist. Wesley was excited because today was Thursday, the day he would see his mother. The rest of the week, she worked for a white family just outside Savannah, cooking, cleaning, and taking care of their children. This was her day off. Wow. So, you know what, guys, right away, I see that this is a little bit of an EE and a little bit of a contrast and contradiction, because I know that normally we are used to seeing our parents every day of the week, 7 days of the week. But Wesley was only getting to see his mom that one day of the week on Saturday. Um, so that's definitely the author wanted us to know, that I can infer that the author wanted us to know that Wesley's mom was a very hard-working mom. Alrighty, so let's see. We could go ahead and make that note and say, Wesley only sees his mother on, say, one day a week. Okay, we can say on Thursdays. Okay, it's not letting me go down to the next line. There we go. So I'll have to kind of bear with it. Okay, here we go. This girl is getting used to how this computer works here. All right. Okay, so here we go. We might even say that a contrast and contradiction, that mom works for a unique family. The author wanted us to know that. Sure. Alrighty, so let's see. So he gets to see his mom this one day. Grandma's friend, old John, was sitting at the table. There's old John. Wesley loved listening to the old man's stories. Old John had been born a slave. He had been taken from his mother and never known her. Wow, guys, we have to stop here because I know that there's some extreme and absolute language popping into your mind there. So go ahead and talk with your planet team for a minute. Just in those 3 or 4 sentences, what are some extreme and absolute words that really stood out to you? Go. Okay. Pressure pop. And let's come back together. Alrighty, guys. I bet that you might have made that extreme and absolute language that Wesley loved listening. I bet a lot of you picked that word that old John was born a slave. So telling me that that's not that long ago, right? From Wesley's perspective, that old John slavery was still very prevalent when old John was younger, and so for Wesley that wasn't all that long ago. Alrighty, so and if he loved listening to old John stories about that, and then we know that old John is probably telling stories about his family and his experiences, and Wesley, we can infer, is really kind of looking up to old John here. Okay, so definitely that word slave stands out to us. If he was born a slave, certainly taken from his mother, right? Contrast and contradiction there too, thinking, oh my goodness, that is so awful. And certainly doesn't happen now, but back then, there were not the laws that they have right now to protect humans and to not allow that to happen. So we can definitely tugging at our heartstrings there for old John. Okay, so let's see. Read a little bit more about old John. He was 9. Dash. So meet me right here at these last few sentences. He was 9. Dash. Wesley's age. Dash. When he and all the slaves were freed in 1865. Wesley felt lucky. At least he saw his own mama once a week. All right, what did you hear there? Go ahead and talk with your plan team. What's some extreme and absolute language or contrast and contradiction you heard there? Go. Stop. Okay. All right, so when you find those extreme and absolute language and that contrast and contradiction, we also then want to think, okay, well, what does that tell us? Like, what does this matter to the story? So I'm sure that a lot of you were saying kind of that next one, that all slaves, right? So when you hear that word all, it's extreme. All slaves were freed in 1865, right? And we may have taken note that Wesley felt lucky. That word lucky, we could think of as extreme and absolute language, right? That he sees his mom once a week, where poor old John has that contrast and contradiction to him, where he never even got to know his mom at all. Okay, so then as we now come to the end of our page here, we have to think, okay, here's my sticky note I can click on. Okay, so how does the author feel about Wesley's childhood, right? What's his perspective on Wesley's childhood? So we can say that, we can infer that the author thinks, that Wesley has a very different, maybe type of and hard type of childhood, right? That life was very hard and rough for Wesley, his mom, and for old John, right? And certainly you can see how these extreme and absolute language phrases make us kind of realize that as readers. Okay, so again, we're thinking about, okay, this is Wesley in his childhood. How is this going to affect him as he moves through the rest of his life? And that extreme and absolute language word of slavery that we heard kind of again and again as well. The author did that on purpose to help us know, that it wasn't that long ago when slavery was still a practice in parts of the United States. All right, so let's see how this we add on to this with our next page. Okay, guys. So what you're going to do is you're going to go ahead and you're going to continue with Easter shopping at Levi's. Okay, and then you're going to continue to read in the same manner through the rest of your pages. Okay, so you're going to go ahead and, time's me out here. You're going to go ahead and read through, find those extreme and absolute language points, and take note of them on your sticky notes. And then when you get to the end of that page, stop and think, okay, how does the author feel about this event in Wesley's life? And did the author use a lot of extreme positive words, extreme negative words? What type of contrast and contradiction were there on purpose? And how does it help you understand that author's perspective? Okay, don't forget to stop, look inside, outside, and beyond those word gap words. And don't forget your heading magic as well. So when you see the new heading, read the heading, turn it into a question, then read the page. Then stop and think at the end. When you are finished with your pages for today, then you're going to go ahead and work on your exit ticket. So when your table is ready, just raise your hand and we'll bring over the exit ticket for you. Now, you're reading all the way through page 202. And when you do your exit tickets this time, you are able to talk with your planet teams. Okay, so I'm going to let you have some discussion for each of your exit ticket questions this time. But again, you pick your own answers. Okay, so and remember to use your stop strategies on these. And remember, with your table match, you are picking one in each row. So it's like, this is an answer choice, this is an answer choice, and this is an answer choice. And you have to pick one in each row going across. All right. And then after, of course, you're finished with your exit ticket, you're going to make sure your name and color reflection are on it, color dot reflection, fold it, put it into our pockets in the front. And then you can go ahead and transition to independent practice time. We'll get our new checklists on tomorrow when I get back. So just do your best with picking your choices for today. We'll update them all tomorrow when I get back. Work hard, and we'll do book nooks and jobs as well. All right. So work hard. You've got this. And I'll see you tomorrow. And have a great rest of the day.